There is an app out there that has classic sci-fi, new sci-fi, and it may not be an app that you're going to subscribe to and stay subscribed to it forever, but I want to tell you about it because I think it might be, if you're into science fiction television and movies, it might be a short-term streaming app that you might be interested in. And no, I don't have an affiliate link. I just want to tell people about it. Hey, I'm Ben Avery, and this is Strangers and Aliens. This is a podcast and a video feed about science fiction and fantasy, but also about faith and Christianity. And for this episode, I wanted to just talk about something that I discovered as I was looking for just something to watch a little while ago. Now, I do want to talk about some of the other sci-fi streaming stuff that's going on right now, but we're so close to the end of the seasons for like Star Trek Picard and Star Wars, The Mandalorian, that I think I'm going to just hold off on that. Although I've been wanting to talk about Picard for weeks now, and I've been wanting to talk about The Mandalorian in a different way for a little bit of time now too. Although I think that I'm maybe a little more friendly toward The Mandalorian than a lot of other people are who I've been watching and listening to. But, and then Star Trek Picard has just been fabulous. There's been some really, really fun stuff in season 3. And so, yeah, those are things I want to talk about. But for this episode, I'm going to be talking about the Peacock streaming app. Peacock is the NBC Universal app, and it is their streaming service. And I was astounded recently when I discovered just how much good sci-fi stuff there was on that app. Now, like I said, this may not be the killer app for you. This may not be like something that you're going to subscribe to long term because you can't wait for the next thing that's on this app. But I do think that there's some pretty exciting things and fun things and interesting things that a lot of you, if you are into science fiction and fantasy, especially if you're of a certain age, that you will probably have a lot of fun with this app. So to me, it seems like the kind of thing that I might recommend to someone as a, subscribe, watch what you want to watch, and then get out of there. But that's actually why we subscribed it in the first place, is we subscribed to it as something that we were going to watch what we want to watch and then get out of there. The reason we subscribed to it was because of Notre Dame football, and there was some Notre Dame football games that were only going to be streaming on Peacock. So we subscribed and got the free trial for Peacock, and then we just held on to it until the end of the football season, and then we held on to it a little bit longer because, frankly, the sitcoms that were on there, my kids and my wife were enjoying them, and there were some other things on there that I was enjoying as well. But just a few months ago, I started looking around for just something to watch that was going to scratch my itch for basically Star Trek kind of sci-fi. I was looking and I found SeaQuest DSV. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but SeaQuest DSV is basically a Star Trek The Next Generation clone underwater. And it really does feel like and sound like and look like, although it had more CGI graphics than The Next Generation had, but it just feels a lot like the Next Generation. And I watched it somewhat back then when it was on network television on NBC. I didn't do a deep dive, because it's a submarine. I didn't watch every single episode, but if it was on and I was in front of the TV, that was what I was going to be gravitated towards. And I remember enjoying it. And so as I'm here looking for, something to add to, what can I watch in my downtime while I'm, I've seen everything from Star Trek, and I don't mind rewatching some of that, but I wanted something new. And it turns out what I wanted was something old and new, and SeaQuest DSV was exactly that. The other thing that I just found especially exciting and fun was the old Quantum Leap series. And so I've been rewatching that, and just again, when I have some downtime, it's comfort food. It's something that I, again, didn't see every single episode, although I did spend more time trying to, make time to watch Quantum Leap, because that was a show that the next day we would talk about, or maybe not next day, I can't remember when it was on during the week, but when I get together with my friends at school after it had been on, we talked about it. And so I've been watching Quantum Leap, and it's just, again, it's a time capsule. It really is. Watching Quantum Leap, I'm going back in time along with Sam Beckett and his Quantum Leap experiment that he did. So that's been fun. Some of the other shows that are on there, sci-fi shows that are on there, are Farscape, Battlestar Galactica, the new Battlestar Galactica, Heroes, Sliders, Eureka, Ray Bradbury Theater, Murder, She Wrote. There's also movies. The Jurassic Park movies are on there. Hellboy 2 is on there. Atlantic Rim is on there, which if you ever want to watch and just get an idea of what the Asylum is, that is their low budget, what do they call it? A mockbuster of Pacific Rim. Waterworld is on there, which I'm actually gearing myself up to rewatch, because that's a movie along with, Battlefield Earth, that is just one of those where I want to revisit and see, like, is it as bad as everyone says it is? Because I honestly remember liking it when I saw it back in college, and yeah, I want to rewatch it and see. Europa Report is on there. It's a science fiction movie. It's a little more of a hard sci-fi movie. 12 Monkeys is on there. Back to the Future movies are on there. Doom, the original Doom with The Rock, is on there. So there's just a lot of stuff on this streaming service. Not movie wise, not the greatest. Okay, although there are some newer movies on there as well. The Megan movie with the little robotic girl, that's on there. Knock on the Cabin Door. I can't remember what that is called, but it's on there now. So they do have some newer movies as well. The other thing that NBC Universal does, and is another reason why I wanted to hang on to it, was they do cycle through their movie collections. Around October, they do Universal Monsters, and it's not always the same ones, but they'll have some Universal Monster movies on there, which is nice for me because I do have them on disc, but these days it's just simpler to stream. And so I've enjoyed watching those on there. All that said, it feels like the kind of thing that maybe most people don't realize is out there, and that classic sci-fi TV stuff that's there, I think it's worth taking a look at for, even if it's just a month or two, so you can watch through most or all of SeaQuest, Sliders, Quantum Leap. But there's also a new show on there that I have enjoyed, and it's become appointment television for me. I've talked about this before on the podcast, where I've talked about how there's certain seasons. There was a season where I was watching on Thursday morning, my day off. I get up, I start doing laundry, and I was watch The Orville and Strange New Worlds. And so I just have these two shows. This season of life, I mean, not season of television and not season in the year, but just recently, I've been watching Picard every Thursday morning. That's when it comes out, and I'm really enjoying it. And then as I've been looking at Peacock, I see this show on Peacock. It's called The ARK. It is a new show. It's releasing still as of April 2023. It's releasing new episodes on Thursdays on the app. I believe that they are airing on the Sci-Fi channel on Wednesday, which that there is just another reason for me to be glad that I'm enjoying it. It's a sci-fi original that's on the Sci-Fi channel, and I actually like it. The idea is you have a group of people put on a spaceship. They're leaving Earth because Earth is dying, and so they're heading off to another planet. They're going to be the first ship to get to this new planet where they're going to start colonizing it, and then more and more ships are going to come from Earth. But before they get there, there's a disaster that wakes everyone up from their cryosleep. It kills most of the bridge crew. And so you have these people who are unprepared and underqualified to run the ship, suddenly put in this position where they are trying to still get to point B, point A being Earth, point B being this new planet. They're still trying to get there, but now they have to figure out how are we going to have enough food to survive until we get there? How are we going to have enough air and fuel? And it's a survival show. It's a survival show because every episode there's some sort of new disaster that they have to deal with and come up with some clever way to fuel the ship, come up with some sort of clever way to feed everyone, get water for everyone. there are some ways that they bring in bad guys to the show, and they also have to deal with that. And there's also mysteries of what exactly happened back on Earth, and mysteries then of how does that tie into some of the stuff that they're hearing about now. That and I don't want to spoil too much for you, but it has definitely, there are things that remind me of Stargate Universe. There are things that remind me of Lost in Space. There are things that remind me of Battlestar Galactica. There are things that remind me of a lot of, classic sci-fi stuff, but it's also its own thing. And it's called the ARK because, it's carrying people, but then you find out it's also called the ARK because there's more to it than just the people. And in fact, there's an episode called 2 by 2. All right. And so this episode called 2 by 2 really, really hangs a lampshade on the fact that they're calling the show the ARK. They call the ship the ARK, it's the ARK 1 or whatever. And, so I've just been really, really enjoying it. And as I've been watching it, it's not the kind of show where I can't wait to see what's going to happen to these characters, or I fall in love with these characters. It's not that kind of thing. It's not like Star Trek where you're just, oh man, you've got Picard and he's just this amazing actor who's given some amazing lines and things like that. And then you have the cast around him with Riker and with LaForge and with Data and Worf, and you just have this crew of really interesting characters that you really start to care about them individually. It's not quite like that for me. The ensemble cast is serviceable, don't get me wrong, but it's just not an amazing show. But it is a good show, and there's enough mystery that it keeps me sticking around. I've talked about the 4 quadrants of how to review, how to critique, where you have the elements of character, style, themes, and plot. This is definitely a plot-driven show, and it's definitely a show that is trying to walk the line between season-long arc and episodic episodes where you can just, there's a problem, they solve it, and they answer some questions about the longer thing that's going on and bring up new questions about this longer thread that they're trying to weave into the fabric of the show. And so in that way, it kind of is trying to do the best of both worlds. But it's created by Dean Devlin, who was involved in the original Stargate movie. But then it's also there's one of the showrunners from the Stargate TV show who are also working on it. And it's just been a lot of fun. And thematically, other than the whole ARK thing, which is, the generation ship, the ship that is being sent to seed humanity because Earth is dying. These are nothing new, but they use it well, and they use it to tell an interesting story, and they bring people in with personal stakes that are tied into what happened on Earth, and they're tied into why they're, trying to get to this new place. And so things like that, it works. It works. The other thing that happens with this show is, like Stargate Universe, actually, it tends to be almost every episode is a bottle episode. So a bottle episode is one where, a TV show is able to save on budget by not leaving the sets that they have built for the show. And so you have an episode where everything happens on the Enterprise, and they don't leave the Enterprise to go down to the planet because that requires more budget. But if they stay on the Enterprise and have to deal with a problem there, then they save money, and they can, do a bigger budget show in a later episode. Almost every episode is a bottle episode. One of the things they did on Star Trek was also every once in a while they discover, this especially the original series, they would come across a ship that is just like their ship, only mostly destroyed. And what do? Well, you just throw some computers on the ground and string some wires across the walls, and suddenly you've got a ship that has battle damage, and now you're not spending a lot of money to create a whole new set for a whole new ship, but instead you're able to just use the sets that are already existing. And that's a trick that they use here as well, to somewhat good effect. When they did it in one episode, it felt a little cheesy, parts of it, but at the same time it also showed what is the difference between this group and that group. And it really does paint a picture in just the difference in character between the two different groups of humanity who are leaving Earth for similar reasons, but with maybe different motivation. Thematically, it again, and this hinges on it being called the ARK, but thematically you have this idea of humanity is paying for their sins and paying for the things that they have chosen to do. And it's environmental. And you could say, it's a save the whales kind of a thing. But again, there's some good sci-fi world building going on with just what happened to the Earth, why it happened, why it got worse the way that it did, and the consequences of that. And I feel it's entirely forgivable, okay, that they're kind of riding that environmentalism wave. But I also believe when God says we have dominion over the animal kingdom, God is saying, take care of what I've created for you. So anyway, the science fiction focus on environmentalism that goes back a long, long time, I really do feel like it is a call that we share as believers, that we should share with the rest of the world. Because again, like I said, the world was given to us by God. We've been given dominion over it with the idea of using the resources that we have to take care of the people that we have with us on this world. And ultimately, to hopefully help draw them to Christ, but also to take care of their needs and show them love and kindness and all that stuff. So I believe that does fit into the Christian worldview. But I also believe that for this show, they use it in some good storytelling. So all that aside, I've been enjoying the ARK. I couldn't tell you the name of any of the characters. I can tell you the role that they play. I can tell you, oh, this character with the long hair, she's the commander. This character with the blonde hair, she's the counselor. This character who's bald, he's the security guy. I can tell you that. I couldn't tell you any names. And I'm definitely drawn into the show because of the plot element rather than the character element, and because of the style of the show doesn't necessarily blow me away, but it's solid I'm assuming it's a lower budget show, but they're using their budget in special effects for the spaceships and the warp travel and different things like that. And it works for me. So I wanted to just recommend that to you as well. And just, if you haven't seen it yet, give it a try. If you have seen it, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Leave comments maybe on the video or on strangersandaliens.com, the blog post for this episode. But I would love to hear what you have to say about it, because I don't have anyone to talk about this show with. No one I know has watched this show. Not even any of the people that I'm normally in contact with about sci-fi stuff that I don't get to talk to face to face. Like the people in my regular world and my regular, face to face community, they're not watching it. And the people in my sci-fi community and my Facebook Messenger and things like that, they're not watching it. I don't have anyone to talk about it with. So here I am talking about it by myself. If you have some insights on other things maybe you found on Peacock or some other apps, streaming services that you would recommend for fans of sci-fi, especially, like I said, people of a certain age, they're going to appreciate SeaQuest, Quantum Leap, the old Quantum Leap. Although the new Quantum Leap, I've been watching that too. I've been enjoying it. I'm taking my time. I'm watching an episode like every few weeks. I'll think, oh, I want something a little different. I'll watch this new Quantum Leap. It works. I'd love to see if they bring Scott Bakula in. I guess what I've heard is they don't bring him in for season 1. I don't know. I haven't finished it yet, but I'd love to see them, see if they could bring him in for season 2. Although you might disagree with me. I'd love to hear from you if you do. I feel like the Quantum Leap series finale is up there as one of the best sci-fi season finale or series finales. I know it's not satisfying. I know you have that title card that comes up that says he was never found. He never made it home. But for me, the choices he made to do what he was going to do, it goes back to what I was just talking about with wanting to take care of and help the people in our world around us. And yeah, I feel like that was a really strong ending. It was weird, but it was just the right amount of weird. And again, the resolution they give to his character. You could say it's not resolution. I say it's the perfect resolution. It works well. Your mileage may vary. You may completely disagree with me. So yeah. But I love hearing from people who disagree with me too. I like arguing about things as long as it's friendly arguing. I don't like actual anger arguing. That's not so much fun, but I do like the kind of fun fan arguing that can happen. So yeah. So with all that said, again, I want to thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for letting me talk about the show that I don't get to talk about with anybody else. And check us out, strangersandaliens.com, where you can find the podcast, find our video feed on YouTube at youtube.com/strangersandaliens. Please subscribe to us there. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you find podcasts. And yeah, like I said, let me know if you agree, disagree, or are just want to say, hey. So until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for talking with me. Goodbye and Godspeed.